news history in northeastern Pennsylvania, and also maybe I-team reports we've done over the years, what we did then, what's happening since we did those reports, and that's what we're talking about today. An I-team sting back in 2006 and 2007, where we caught, along working with police and the district attorney's office and Butler Township Police, nabbed 6 would-be child predators who were, and they all pled guilty, were trolling the internet, back then chat rooms, trying to connect with a 13-year-old girl who was actually working for 2822 News at the time. We'll talk about that in a moment, but today we're taking a look back at our I-Team sting. Let me introduce our special guest for this podcast, this edition of the Mehalshick Files, Butler Township Police Chief William Feistner. And Chief Feistner and I go so far back. We've worked on a lot of stories, Bill, over the years, and this was one, and we're going to talk about how we got involved in the sting operation. This is one that just stays with you all the time because of how dramatic it was and how it was really something new, these internet stings in the day, almost 20 years ago now. There wasn't much of this going on. So this is really something fascinating.
Correct, it was. And this was the follow-up from the original Stranger Danger with Chester Zarember, who was the Nanticoke chief, who went to a playground and was able to get kids go away with them. And this was kind of the up-to-date modern version of it. When you originally came to me, I thought it would be originally a good public piece to put out. About 2 years before we had done this, there was a homeless person who used a computer in Houston, Texas. And he was a Megan's Law offender and had been chatting on the internet with a 15 or 16-year-old girl from Butler Township. He stole a vehicle and drove here. And then the parents noticed him at the house. And when he was going to be apprehended, he fought with the police and tried to take their firearm from them. So that was kind of all fresh in our memory, and I thought this would be a good piece to do to bring some awareness to what could happen on the internet.
And again, Chief Feistner, that was back in 2006. It's now 2025, going into 2026, and we still see child predators out there, people who are trying to prey on children online. And now, because of social media, of course, as compared to 20 years ago, there's so many more availabilities for them, avenues to track down kids. First of all, I want to ask my producer, Joe, and director, Joe Nardone, to run. This is a promotion we ran back and then. And really, you do promos to catch attention of people. And when this started running, truth be told, people were like, you want them to watch what we did. But it was more so than just because it was a TV report we did. It was the results of it. So let's listen to this promo. We'll talk about it when we come back. Go ahead, Joey.
So what are you doing?
Now, come on.
You gonna come see me?
Come on, let's go.
Yeah? What are we gonna do?
Get up here! Get up here! Stop right there!
What do you drive? So how am I gonna know what you?
Why were you coming down here tonight? What were you gonna do when you got down here?
Just call me when you get close, you know?
Anything you say can and will be used against you in court of law.
Well, I'll talk to you in a little bit then. I kinda wanna meet you too.
And that was a promo, of course. We're just trying to sound the alarm out there. Not so much just watch Channel 28, Eyewitness News, WBRE 2822 News, which of course we want people to watch, but we try and do stories, Bill, that help keep people safe or highlight an issue and a problem. And that really was a big problem back then. It was starting to surface a lot. And Chris Hansen from NBC started his around the same time. In fact, I interviewed him. He interviewed me for what we did. So it really wasn't a crime that was off the radar, correct? Most parents weren't even aware of it.
They really weren't. And I mean, truth be told about our situation, when you came to me to do that, I hadn't watched any of Chris Hansen stuff. I wasn't familiar with any of that. And part of that came in is I wanted to do the piece, but really I was kind of doubtful that we would even be able to attract anybody. And, it was kind of funny behind the scenes when the first guy decided to come up that we really didn't even have a hotel room. And
we
at the
won't
last
mention any
minute,
names at this point. We're going to run some stories of the actual takedowns, but go ahead, I'm sorry.
and no, that's okay. And then, Tony and Gargiola had to go to get the hotel room at the last minute as the bad guy was on the phone calling saying, well, what room are you in?
Because we also didn't want, and the hotel worked with us, but we wanted to be stealthish because we don't know, is he local? Is he not from the area? Just like the same questions we're asking today. Where are they coming from? I know local police departments, Kingston is very progressive. There's some Pocono police departments in Pocono who also do it. But you were saying, but Tony had to get the hotel room. We won't say the hotel at this point either. But there was a lot of logistical setup for this.
And that's correct. And since it hadn't been done before, I reached out to a few people that I trusted that really hadn't done it themselves, but gave me some ideas. And since we've always done a lot of undercover narcotics stings and things like that, I took that the way we do those things and just tailored it to our situation.
We're running some video. Producer director Joe Nardone running some video, and we're going to show a package momentarily of the various arrests that happened. And let's go back to how we connected with Chief Feister. You were captain at that time, right, Captain?
Maybe a corporal.
Corporal at that time. But you were very active. You were a mover and shaker in that police department for sure. And now you're the chief. So when we heard about it, parents were calling us and saying, "Are you aware of what's happening?" My daughter or son was online back in the day. I think it was AOL. You got mail, that kind of thing. We're talking 20 years ago, right? So it wasn't that people were computer illiterate. They were unaware of the dangers, or the bad guys out there or bad people out there knew how to take advantage of it, but parents didn't know how to protect themselves. So when I called then Corporal Feister, I said, I'm reaching out to law enforcement contacts of mine to do an internet sting. And I know Chris Hansen was already running it some. But again, most said, well, I've seen them. I have no idea where to go. Truth be told, when I talked to Bill, he said, let's do it. Now, knowing, of course, you had that experience 2 years before with that guy from Texas. So, right. And it worked out well. Let's do, Joe Nardone, let's run one of our first packages. This is the first guy, I believe. I won't mention his name. It talks about this, the arrest and show what happened. And again, at the time, it's dramatic today, even looking back at 20 years. But these kind of guys are still out there today. Let's run that package.
Police! Police!
Get down on the ground. Down on the ground.
I'm sorry. Hands behind your back. It's okay. It's okay. We're the police.
I'm sorry. Don't resist.
Who are you here to meet? You here to meet Jess?
No, sir. Please, no.
This is the man your kids should fear on the internet. We caught him, but thousands more like him are out there and will likely never be caught. We'll tell you who this guy is later. This arrest was the end result of our undercover online sting. Our WBRE investigative unit worked along with Butler Township Police at their headquarters in Luzerne County. Investigative producer Alexis Fisher, Officer Bill Feister, and myself spent dozens of hours in chat rooms. Alexis posed as a 13-year-old girl named Jess.
People are looking at my profile. People see that I'm 13, and they're still talking to me, especially our 39
As soon as they
man.
saw that, they wanted you to talk privately in a chat room.
Exactly.
Or the
exactly.
IM'd you.
Exactly.
In just minutes, we got our first visitor, and it got downright filthy.
Pig.
And a man of his word, he sent us a picture of his genitals.
I'll bet all the boys love you.
Another guy wrote in. He wanted Jess's real name and home phone number and says, I bet the boys love you. The two encounters we just showed you are only 2 of 149 chats Jess had that led to sexually explicit conversations.
I just want to talk. I swear.
Now, remember this guy on the internet, his name was Heat1995S. Only minutes after we started our chat, he asks for a phone number so he can set up a rendezvous with Jess.
Are you picky about age? I mean, it doesn't freak you out or anything that I'm only 13, right?
Not even 24 hours later, he came knocking at the door of our motel. We and the cops were waiting.
Police! Police!
Get down on the ground. Down on the ground.
The chat room, the chat log is pretty graphic. You knew she was a 13-year-old girl. You suspected she was a 13-year-old girl, and you came up here.
Sir, I apologize. Please, sir, don't do anything to me. Just let me go.
But you knew she was a 13-year-old. You suspected she was 13 years old.
I just wanted to talk. I swear to God.
What were your intentions coming up here?
Sir, my intentions, I swear to God. This is my first time. I just got AOL for 2 months now. I just wanted to talk. I swear. I wanted to.
Well, they all said they just wanted to talk. You know, that was 2006. We still see it today going on. And again, every single person that was nabbed in our sting pled guilty. There wasn't one that wanted to go to trial. And again, truth be told, back in the day, people said, "Oh, we're luring them in," that kind of thing. But we took great precautions to work. The police ran the operation. We were helping facilitate it. And then, Bill, you worked with the district attorney's office. Explain the process. In other words, we didn't go out there. Listen, as the news media, we can't make arrests. We're not the judge and jury. The police also have a job to do. We were trying to combine as a team us to get the word out, but also not to jeopardize the investigation.
Correct. And we wanted to be careful of those entrapment issues. We wanted to be careful of different things that went on. There was a very great attorney who worked with us, Jenny Roberts, who now works for the U.S. Attorney's Office, was helpful in providing all this because we weren't going off a template. We weren't repeating what somebody else did, especially in Luzerne County. And it was very interesting in kind of pioneering the way. And also, we were able to take this program and, develop public awareness. And we probably gave presentations to at least 10,000 people from all the way from, Carbon County all the way to Tunkhannock. And it was really great to use that awareness to show them it can happen. It can happen in your backyard.
And I remember some folks some throughout the area, and we understand their concerns. We're going to take a break shortly, but they were saying that we were bringing them into the neighborhood. And what we were saying was, what a lot of people didn't understand back then, at least some didn't, is they're already in the neighborhood, online neighborhood. They're already, and chat rooms then were schools, communities. It wasn't like now you have the internet or social media where there's no specific area. They knew where they were talking. They were already in the neighborhood. They were coming. That guy was coming. If that was, how many real 13-year-old girls were out there that he may have come up to?
Right.
And we don't know.
Right.
We're going to take a short break. We're talking about the I-Team Sting Internet Predator investigation we did 20 years ago, 2006 to 2007. We're talking about what we did then and what's happening now, investigations like this. And the fact of the matter is, child predators are still out there even as we speak. So I know many departments are very proactive. The state is, I know that for sure. But we just can't get enough information out there, Bill, about that.
Correct.
So Chief William Feister from the Butler Township Police, my special guest on this edition of the Mehalshick Files. My producer and director, Joe Nardone, is going to take a break. We'll be back right after this short break. Welcome back to the Mehalshick Files on the 2822 Now app. We're streaming here. The Mehalshick Files, I believe most cases streams at 9 p.m. every night. Check out my other files, other cases out there, cold cases. Hugo Selinsky case. We talk about Joanne Curley, the poisoning of her husband back in 1991 in Wilkes-Barre. A whole bunch of stories, cases that we're taking a deeper dive in, looking back at it, what happened then, and what's happening how that case impacted maybe not just Pennsylvania, but also the entire country. My special guest today is Chief William Feister from the Butler Township Police in Luzerne County, who really helped facilitate this internet sting we did, the I-Team, back in 2006, 2007. And some would say, well, why are we going back 20 years talking about this? Well, the fact of the matter is, 20 years later, Bill, this kind of stuff still goes on.
It is, and actually now that it's on more platforms, it happens much more frequently and to different extents. So it's still very relevant to us and to the kids.
Okay, Chief William Feister, we're going to play now an interview. Excuse me. What we did was we had always put on silent, right? We have an interview. I interviewed Alexis. Her name is Alexis Leonard. She was a producer here at 2822 News back in 2006, 2007. She was our online, she was posing as a 13-year-old girl. And we're going to talk about the minutiae specifics of what we had to do with that. Posed as a 13-year-old girl, and she was bombarded by child predators. Everyone that was arrested in the sting pled guilty, for the record. Well, I did an interview with Alexis, now Leonard. She's still in the media business, but this is the first time I talked to her in about 20 years. Joe Nardell, let's run the interview with Alexis Leonard. Again, she was an I-Team producer when we did the internet sting back in 2006 and 2007. Alexis, thanks for joining us here today on 2822 Now on our podcast called The Mehalshick Files. We haven't talked, truth be told, full disclosure, in about what, 20 years?
20 years, yes, absolutely. It's been a long, long time.
So it's a whole family, a whole generational deal. But one thing that stands out in my mind, I know we were talking before we started recording today, is how that internet predator sting we did in 2006 to 2007 here at 2822 News really, I think, was ahead of the curve in many ways. But also, it was a wake-up call to people back then, especially. I think a lot of people were naive about the internet. That's when they had chat rooms, that kind of thing. So it really led the way in our market for sure, and even nationwide. So what do you remember about that? I believe we caught 6 predators who pled guilty. When you look back at those days, what memories do you have, first of all, now, almost 20 years later?
I'd say the first memory I have is being that 14-year-old girl, Jessica, and really trying to, as not an actress by any means, I was an investigative producer, but really trying to put myself in the shoes of a 14-year-old girl who would be talking online with these men. And some of those men were very young. And so as a producer trying to fit the mold of a 14-year-old, I found so many times where it was just conflicting. I can remember times being scared. But I think the biggest thing that I remember was how big of an impact we made in our small community in the Poconos. I mean, when we got that first guy, I can remember it like it was yesterday, and putting that on TV. And as you said, we really were ahead of the times. People really hadn't done those kinds of stings yet. It was hard to do. We were very fortunate to find law enforcement that we had, I believe, from Butler County. And we did it the right way. We moved very slow. I can remember you and I being really impatient sometimes, really wanting to move that needle, but law enforcement, smart, doing the right thing. We moved slow, but I just remember the impact that we made on our viewers and the viewer outreach once the first story aired.
And I remember, Alexis, when we first started this, and again, under full disclosure, when we realized that a lot of, we had been being contacted by parents that, and teachers, that kind of thing. We had heard about these pedophiles or predators reaching out to, back in the day, they were called chat rooms. Remember, they were chat rooms
on America Online, AOL. I mean, it was. That's how we're dating this. It was AOL chat rooms.
That was it, and we thought, well, let's try this. But again, I wasn't an expert. You were a tech person back even then. You were ahead of the curve. So when I reached out to the Luzerne County District Attorney's Office, as well as Bill Feister, he was captain then, now the police chief in Butler Township, Luzerne County. And I said, here's what I'm thinking. I think it could be a good public service. What do you think? Can we do this? We want to do it right. We want to be fair. We're not the judge and jury, but I think there's a big problem out there, a big issue. What do you think? And he says, yeah, we could do it. And he's part of this podcast. In fact, we'll be hearing from him throughout this podcast. And we're recording this interview just for logistical purposes. But one day we'll have you in the studio live. We'll talk about it again.
Love to be. Absolutely.
So, what I remember you said before, I was surprised also, that first guy, but then it was like bombarded. Jessica was being bombarded. I'm not going to say it was easy, but there were so many out there in these different chat rooms. I mean, that was, and you said that was scary for sure.
And you hit the nail on the head. It did feel easy. All of a sudden, it was as if they were coming out of the woodwork. And I remember the graphic nature of the conversations that I had with a lot of these men. And if you remember, they weren't just in these chats. There were a few where I was on the phone with them.
Because they wanted to talk to you. We'll talk about that more in a moment, but they wanted to hear your voice. They wanted to know you were a 13-year-old girl or 14-year-old girl. And
that, and I remember us moving very slow through that process because it was really important that every step that we took could hold up in court, God forbid. And it did eventually, which but I just remember taking very, very small steps, and you and I just wanting to get these people and put them away because we knew what they were doing. But then you had crossing state lines. Then you had and I can remember Bill at the time saying, we need to do more than just chat in these rooms, in these online communities with these men, because we don't have enough. And then it was, well, how do we do this on the phone? And I don't sound like a 13-year-old, but man, I can remember the first person that I talked to, and it was a long time. And we were at the police station at that point. When we made phone calls, that was another thing. Right. We couldn't just do the story. It was so important that every piece of that story was done right. So, because you don't get do-overs in those situations. And so I can remember we had to go to the police station for some of those phone calls and then figure out, about tracing phone calls. I mean, thank gosh, technology wasn't what it was today. But, really moving very slow so that things could hold up in court, and just doing it the right way so that they didn't kind of catch on to what we were doing. It was scary for sure when I was on the phone with them. I can remember leaving some of those evenings because, the story's not over. I mean, right. I don't remember.
It was ongoing, these conversations.
And it took us months to be able to do this. And I can remember it having a big effect on my family. My family was in Philly. I was in Wilkes-Barre. My mom, my dad, they know what I'm doing. They know I'm leaving from these police stations. So, but I never for a second ever walked away scared enough to not continue on, because I knew what we were doing really mattered. And it wasn't in the spotlight yet. I mean, years after we really did that sting where NBC National really took on To Catch a Predator. So yes, we were very ahead of the time.
And I remember, and it was scary at times because, and you're right, people, these are not the kind of stories you add water, stir, and you have it done. And, I often wonder about investigative reporting today. Do newsrooms or have the time to commit to it? And I know we try, but I think we knew, especially back then, we had to put time into it. I was the main anchor then, and we would do it during between newscasts. And you would call me sometimes during the day and say, hey, this guy, we won't mention names here, is hitting on Jessica. And then we would call an audible and get the photographers together and a DA and police department and meet at a hotel, whatever. And we're going to be running packages during this podcast, giving you some background. So what we're talking about now, Alexis, people will see in real time what we did. And I remember one time, but these pedophiles, and I'll plead guilty, they knew, like, you were taking one or two calls at a time. There were so many coming in. And I responded. Do you remember this? I responded. I was texting back to someone that you had been chatting with. They knew my cadence. I was spelling words correctly. You were doing it right even back in the day with, like, OMG, whatever it was. So expound on that. This one guy, I said, who is this? I hit a couple keystrokes. he knew it wasn't you or it wasn't Jessica. And so these guys are sharp.
And I think it's because, like I said, I really had to dive into the shoes of a 13, 14-year-old girl. And again, thank gosh for law enforcement and working so closely with them. They helped every step of the way, because there could have been so many mistakes we made. But I do remember that now that you're jogging my memory. And you said, "Who's this?" And I didn't spell things right.
And I came running in and I said, Alexis, you have to continue this conversation. We're going to lose this guy. And it wasn't that we were having fun with it. We weren't. We knew this guy, person, whatever, was bad news. The DA's office said we need more. But I'm sorry, I interrupted. Go ahead. You expound.
No, that's fine. You're jogging a lot of my memory in a lot of these conversations, in particular, and as you said, I won't name names, but in particular, that first gentleman that we got, that took a lot of chatting, that took multiple phone calls. And the final phone call was me standing in a hotel room, and then hanging up, and that knock came, and I remember running into the bathroom because, no one wanted him to see me. And being in that bathroom alone, hearing everything, terrified, knowing that, man, like, what did I just do? Like, we just took someone really, really scary and bad off the streets.
Right.
So, taking that investigative producer out of me for a second, I'm a human. And then I can remember when they got him out of the room, they had him in cuffs, the door was shut. You said, "You're okay," because you had gone out and you were putting the camera in his, the microphone in his face when they were arresting him. And then when all was said and done, you came in and you said you can come out. And I can remember I didn't come out right away. Like,
Right.
I was really, really
Right.
scared. But
I remember.
it took so many chats and phone calls, and it was all really part of the process, because one chat wasn't going to do it, one phone call wasn't do it. If you can remember, sometimes they even got a little nervous on the phone with me, and they would hang up on me, and then
Right.
they jump right into the chat room and tell me they wanted to chat with me.
Right.
And it was vulgar. I mean, it was absolutely vulgar. And I can tell you right now, I was not a parent then. I am a parent today. And when I think back to some of the things that were said to what I have right now, a 15-year-old,
Teenage. Right.
it's terrifying, and how far we've come with technology today, and how far it's terrifying.
And it's interesting too, and that was in 2006, 2007. And now we have, individual predator catchers around the country. Police departments do it. I know the Kingston City Borough Police here in Luzerne County do it. And but they're still out there. And you're right, though. I remember that first guy, and you were as tough as nails. I mean, you're no wallflower then, you're no wallflower now, especially as a mom. My mind's on mama bear all the time. I mean, my wife, she's the brains of the operation, and I see how moms operate. They're second to none, right? But when you think about it, you're right. Looking back at the video, even now, we're showing it in this podcast. Who knew who was coming through that door? And we had police around, security measures. Again, the police handled the investigation. DA approved the affidavit, and it wasn't like we were on a fishing expedition. We just knew they were out there, and sure enough, they thought they're coming for a 14-year-old girl. But you're right. When they come through that door, we didn't know who they were. Did they?
And I think,
could they have had a gun? Could they have had other people with them? We don't know.
Absolutely that. And I also think when we ended up seeing who these people were, it was so sad.
Right.
These were not, what I guess what people would think predators are.
Right.
They were
The
young
boogeyman.
men. They were young men. And
Right.
I think even today, when you hear predator or pedophile, you don't think of a teenager. You don't think of someone in their early 20s. So when you take into consideration, just mental health and the people that came through that door, I don't believe, and maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, I think every one of them were very, very young. I mean, they were.
And the one was, I won't say the name, one was a volleyball coach of a high school team, not from Northeastern PA, but outside Northeastern Pennsylvania. But it didn't matter. They wanted to, whatever their motivation was. And that first guy, again, I won't say his name, that was dramatic for everybody. But I remember you there, and we were reassuring you, listen, you don't need us to protect you, not then and not now. But we also knew we had a responsibility to our whole team, and Chief Bill Feister, who's watching this right now, along with the DA's office and his officers, we didn't know what to expect. This wasn't done before. NBC, Chris Hansen at the time did it. But let's face the facts. They had an army of 100 people, and they were all around the place. And that was a network level.
When you consider what we did on our level in that community,
right.
It really is remarkable. I mean, because you just hit the nail on the head. When you have NBC National, you and I both know what that means. That is an enormous team of people. There's, they're everywhere.
Lots of producers, lots of cameras, cops all over the place.
You and a photographer, and then all law enforcement. I always felt protected. I never was scared for my well-being. But even I can remember that first night, like we were shaken, like we had worked really hard. And I remember people back then, I don't believe it's the case as much today, but I remember people back then would say, you lured them and you made them come.
Yeah.
And when I tell you, anybody listening right now, where all I did was go into a chat room, there was no luring.
Yeah.
It was boom, 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 boom. And it was easy.
We only have a few minutes left, but I remember also, and we took great pains, and you should do it right. We talk about ethics and that you have to do it right. And we're not the police. We can't sign an arrest affidavit, but we had worked with the police department, but also, and they were working in conjunction. I remember Chief Feister now on the phone, an assistant DA saying, here's what we have. Here's what we have. And then they would say, okay, go for it. And they kept coming back. We didn't say, hey, I'm 13, 14-year-old girl, come get me, whatever. They were just out there in these high school chat rooms and good old days, AOL, you got mail, that kind of stuff, And but I think I look back at it and say, I think it was amazing work, if I must say so myself. But more important than what we did, it was bringing awareness to that problem that's still out there today, Alexis. Closing thoughts, you still see stuff out there today. What do you think? These guys are out there.
As a parent, it's hard to wrap your head around. As a former investigative producer, I look at my kids and I say, it happens. People are not trying to threaten you or scare you. It happens. And I brought them into my world as an investigative producer a few times and let them know about stories that I've done and, how to protect your information, from dumpster diving stories to investigative stories.
Right.
But looking back on it, I would tell you, anybody that's listening, it's still happening today. It's rampant, and it's just in so many different ways. The one thing for us 20 years ago was AOL really was that way people were doing this. And so I think as a parent 20 years ago, if you could kind of hone in on some of that technology at the point and have your eyes on it, you had your eyes on your kid. Today, it's impossible. There's 50,000 platforms. Right. They all have phones. It's impossible. But I would tell every parent that just when you think it can happen to you, it absolutely does. And you said it. They are not these bad criminal people that you think that you could judge on the street. They were volleyball coaches, young men, accomplished people, and they did come across state lines. They're desperate. They're sick. They need help, and it can happen. So I would, I think the one thing I would say is 20 years later, I am so proud of the fact that we did it the way that we did it, that we did it with law enforcement the right way. We took bad people off the street, and I can remember going to court for that first guy and watching him be put away for a little bit. So as a reporter, a journalist, an investigative producer, you only want to know that you're making an impact and helping the people in your community and shedding awareness and making people aware. And I think we did that.
Okay, that was Alexis Leonard. She now, again, that was 20 years ago. Since then, she has an 11-year-old son and a 15-year-old son, so she looks at it as a parent. We're going to take a short break. Chief William Feister from Butler Township, we're going to talk more about this case. And we did take great pains because everyone has a right to have their rights protected. And we took, you really, as law enforcement and the DA's office, took great measures to make sure that was the case. And again, they all pled guilty within a short time. So we're going to take a short break. Andy Mehalshick, along with Chief William Feister, we're talking about the internet crimes, internet sting that our unit did back in 2006, 2007. We'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to Mehalshick Files. We are talking about internet sting, internet crime. We did an internet sting, the I-Team did back in 2006, 2007, as part of our ongoing effort to help keep our community safe. The issue then, as it is till today, internet crime, predators online, going after our kids, okay? And my special guest is Chief William Feister from the Butler Township, Luzerne County Police Department. And Chief Feister really facilitated this. We did, initially, you're the guy who said, we can do this because you knew the dangers that were out there.
I did.
You had heard about what was going on.
I did, because it had happened in our township a few years prior. But I thought overall, for the interests of the people and for things, it was an upcoming crime, and it was awareness that really needed to be done, and it was worth the undertaking. It's not really something that I was used to, of dealing with civilians, and Alexis
Meaning
was great. Working with reporters,
because there's a divide between police and the media. I know there's a belief out there, and you should never cross that line. You have a job to do. We have a job to do, but we're not really a team in that we're not telling you how to do your job or vice versa. But we both serve the community. So I know that's what you meant with that, because there has to be a division.
Right.
You know?
And two of the aspects of doing law enforcement operations involving civilians, there's a lot of risk management. And I remember, police officers, when they do undercover work, get a lot of specialized training. They go through a lot of things. And there was a predator that we had been talking to that didn't actually show up, but he was scheduled to show up. He was from Binghamton, New York. And we thought he was going to come down, and we didn't have a room at that time, so we were going to meet in the parking lot. And it was, with Alexis being that great, that trying to give her like a 10-minute undercover course on, if this happens, you have to do this. And I remember I'm like, you need a hat, and we didn't have a hat, but you had a hat. It was like the #1 dad hat.
#1 dad hat, yeah.
Because it was a trouble signal that if things went the way they shouldn't, that you're supposed to throw the hat out. So it was, and I know it was nerve-wracking for her. It was nerve-wracking for us. But when you do a lot of these cases, at least from the drug side, we know what works. We know when not to do it, and that's the experience we relied on.
We're looking at video there. Our producer Joe Nardone, producer director, and really man of all talents here in the 2822 Now studio. We just heard from Alexis about her recollection 20 years later. And again, I didn't talk to her since it happened then, because life is like, she went to pursue other interests, but it still sticks with her after all this time. We're going to run another story on another predator nabbed in our sting back in I believe this was 2007. Let's roll that package, Joe.
Face down on the ground.
Whitehaven police, assisted by Wilkes-Barre Township Police, arrest 42-year-old Scranton late Friday night. It was the end result of days of chatting online with what he thought was a 14-year-old boy.
He says, you're
left no doubt what he wanted to do. He wanted to meet up, and soon. Was he pretty intense with this? He was pretty ferocious with his chat log?
Oh, yeah, this guy was right off the bat. I mean, first thing, I think the third word out of his mouth was something to that effect in sexual nature. I mean, from day one, this guy wanted to meet me.
The decoy was actually a Whitehaven police officer. He even exchanged photographs on the computer with the 14-year-old decoy and called him on his cell phone. He wanted to meet in a public place, a local mall, and told the police decoy that he couldn't miss him coming, that he would be using a Lackawanna County Stadium van. Later, called the decoy to say he borrowed his aunt's car and that he would walk up to the boy and introduce himself. So we waited, and sure enough, showed up. The decoy walked him away from the mall, and police moved in.
Put your hand on your back. Oh. Sir, you're under arrest. You have a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You understand that?
Yes.
Let go of your hand. Yeah. Okay, you right there?
Yeah.
Okay.
What are you here for, buddy?
Actually, I was just here to pick up a friend.
Who's your friend?
A friend?
14-year-old boy?
No.
That's what the chat log says.
Okay.
During police questioning, admitted he had sex earlier in that day with a 15-year-old boy and gave the teenager's name to detectives. He also told investigators he had child pornography on his home computer. A few hours after the arrest, Scranton police confiscated that computer. Said he was going to bring the van, but changed his mind at the last moment because he did not want to draw attention to himself. We're told does special events as Whitehaven police described as one scary person.
Just this guy's demeanor from day one was he wanted a 14-year-old boy, and he didn't care what he was going to do to get one. He came to another county to find the one that we have here, our decoy.
Many parents forget that they're looking for males as well. So this is just going to be another warning for parents to pay attention of what their son or daughter's doing. It doesn't matter if they're a male or female.
I believe that was number 6 caught in our sting, and we worked on that part of the sting with the Luzerne County Detective's Office, Detective Chaz Ballo, as well as Wilkes-Barre Township Police. And by that time, and truth be told, what happened was, as we worked with Chief Butler, William Feister from Butler Township, other departments were seeing what was being done, and they realized, I'm sure it's happening in our neighborhood. And they called us, said, can we work with you on that? And again, there were nuances between how it was set up, but the bottom line was the police did the investigation, the DAs approved it, and that's how this arrest was. And if you noticed, that guy, Wilkes-Barre police took him down at gunpoint because he's in a public place, but also he started reaching toward his band or coat, I believe at the time, and there was concern, does he have a weapon? So, that was really intense in a very public place. But there are the kind of things you're talking about. Police are trained for those kind of things, and if you notice, we stayed back even until the guys were in custody.
Right. And, back in that time, we didn't have pictures of these people. We didn't know who to expect. And kind of a funny story is before the first person showed up at the hotel room, there was a car that drove in front of the hotel very slowly, was checking door numbers, and we were like, this is it. It fit in the time frame. We were ready to go. And we almost jumped out on him, and it was a pizza delivery to the next room. And it was by fractions of a second that we didn't grab that guy. And I think while we were unsorting that, we would have lost that first guy. The first guy actually wasn't sure where he was going and parked in the middle, so we never saw him arrive until there was a knock at the door.
And that's the situation even at the hotel. Remember that. And by the way, this guy we just ran the story on that was caught outside the Wyoming Valley Mall, he turned out he pled guilty. It turned out, I believe he's still serving life in prison as a child rapist. Because when they went to his house in Scranton, after this started to unfold, and he admitted to everything, they found all kinds of child pornography, and he was convicted. And I believe he's still in prison serving a life prison term. Right. So, Joey, just briefly, how much time do we have left in the segment? About 4 minutes? Okay. And I still have the chat logs. Now, we had computers back then, but they're nothing like they are now. But we kept them purposely because for possible evidence down the road, for the police and or for us, in case we ever have to appear in court, we had chat logs. And for a long time after our sting, I would peruse through some of those chat logs, and it just reinforces, boy, I mean, these people are nasty, and they're still out there today. I mean, these guys, type of people are still out there.
Right, and that's one thing that I don't think the general public kind of understands is there wasn't anything of a sexual nature brought on by us. It was just general conversation that immediately turned into a sexual nature. It wasn't initiated by us or by Alexis. It had nothing to do with that, and quickly became it. Probably the fourth predator that we arrested, if you remember, we hadn't talked to or had communication with between May and October. We hadn't talked to him.
He resurfaced.
Because we were tied up with these other arrests, and we had a lot going on. And immediately the day that we popped back on, he remembered us and set arrangements to come up that quickly that he remembered us.
And I think that was the volleyball coach, I believe.
I think so.
And we won't say where we met. There was some of the video you see there with us in a car. I think that's it right there. The guy pulled in with a BMW. He pulled up to the hotel. It's a different hotel. And my photographer and I, Tony Gargiolo, my photographer, was in hiding behind the building in the woods, but able to see everything. We had an undercover police officer in a car next to his BMW when he pulled in, and you guys were on the radio talking to each other. And when you think about how careful you have to be to take precautions, you have to block him in, because if he realizes he's being arrested, he could throw that in reverse and end up on 309.
Right.
So great pains were taken to keep the people safe, and I know police departments still do that till this day. But again, it's still out there, and we're going to take a short break, and we'll come back with some final thoughts about some words for parents, especially parents out there. Even in 2025, this was all taking place in 2006, 2007. It's the same dirty animal out there. We'll be right back with more of the Mehalshick Files. Welcome back to the Mehalshick Files. Andy Mehalshick, lead I-Team reporter at 2822 News. My special guest today is Chief William Feister from the Butler Township Police Department in Luzerne County. We're talking about an internet sting the I-Team did back in 2006, 2007. It was a 2-year operation. Chief Feister was tremendous in making it work, but also realizing that there was a problem out there then. And this kind of reporting and was really cutting edge, especially then, because not because we did it, but because a lot of people didn't know these creeps were out there. But you want to have some advice for people today. They're still out there.
Nothing has really changed other than it's become much more prevalent because there's a million apps, there's a million ways that people communicate with each other. And there's also now, I feel, parents more likely to give a digital device that has communication as a form of entertainment to their son or daughter. And if they don't begin, very young and have that conversation, it could be too late by the time the warning signs or, some of the issues come about, when they're 16, 17.
And because they could take devices with them now when we did our sting back in 2006, 2007, most computers were land-based. You had it at home, in your bedroom, in your house, whatever. And the big thing was put the computer in a public spot and keep an eye on it as best you can. But now with the cell phones and laptops and whatever, they could track you anywhere. And if you get an app, if you give it, I don't want to say what they could do, but it's out there. So wrapping up, Bill, people have to be, parents especially, and young people have to be vigilant. I don't mean just little kids. The perverts are out there.
They do. Matter of fact, we just had a case that the parent was alerted to some suspicious activity, had the conversation with their, I believe, 14-year-old daughter. She was being groomed by a child predator on the Discord app in Reading, and had sent some bad images and things, but he was controlling her partly by giving her access to a gaming account online. So this is still prevalent today. The internet now is much more dangerous than letting your kid play by the street, because at least parents can see cars, see vehicles. And today, that hidden internet is definitely a threat if used improperly.
Okay, Chief William Feister from Butler Township, Luzerne County Police Department. Thank you again for helping us, Dan, and thank you for your good work out there also.
Well, thank you and Alexis for putting trust in me and doing that operation.
It was top-notch stuff, and hopefully it made a difference in our community then, and even now getting the word back out. That will do it for this edition of the Mehalshick Files. Chief Feister, thank you. I'm Andy Mehalshick. Check out our other programming on 2822 Now app. Until we see you next time, have a great and most importantly, safe day. See you.
Bye.